Welcome to the AM Update, Week in Review. A collection of the best moments from Aaron McIntire's morning update.
3 thoughts on what we saw over the weekend. Number 1, time to give some major tips of the cap and a major outpouring of thanksgiving for the United States military. What we saw take place and what you just heard, the highly orchestrated, highly thought out, highly planned out operation that the operational security in terms of not letting any of this leak out. You let the intentionally leaked out, the B-2 bombers that headed west out of Missouri, you let that get out on purpose as a diversion tactic, as a deception tool. And you orchestrated all of these strikes over 3 disparate areas inside Iran that all took place over about 25 minutes. I mean, what we saw from the Israeli military the first night of their operation against Iran, that was pretty incredible stuff as well. I said that on Friday. What we saw here rivaled that, or maybe even surpassed it. As you heard Dan Kane say there, what the United States military does better than any military on earth is actually the collaboration between the different branches. And you just heard that play out in real time. Number 2, can you imagine a Commander-in-Chief, Joe Biden, presiding over this? I cannot. Again, I've said this often, but over the weekend, it really hit home. The Biden administration seems like 10 years ago. It feels like it was 10 years ago. I cannot imagine the messaging and the execution of such an operation being any better than what they did. Agree or disagree with the action that the United States took. In number 3, President Trump has stated for years explicitly his belief that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. No one should be surprised or aghast that what just happened. It's also been a pillar of the Iranian leadership's worldview that America is the great Satan. They've stated this over and over again for nearly 50 years, and they've acted as though they actually believe that rhetoric, starting with, when they took hostages like right after the revolution. So sometimes you just have to start taking people at their word. I was slightly in the camp of let Israel do its own thing with this and not getting involved. But here's the reality. What just happened. We bombed Iran. That happened. So you just have to adjust and move on. That was the reality. Final thing is this. I guess maybe it's 4 things, depending on how you want to divvy this up. Nobody knows for sure what's going to happen next. I err on the side of it's probably not going to be World War III, but we don't know that for sure. So let's just all take a deep breath, dispense with the certainties one way or another, and pray for peace. That's the message. Pray for peace. I hope that this brings peace to that region. Dirty little secret is that there are very few people, their Arab neighbors do not like Iran. Dirty little secret is that Saudi Arabia was probably cheering on Saturday night. They don't want to be beholden to what they probably see as a bunch of weird cultists. And yes, it's the same religion, but different sects. So let's just take a deep breath, dispense with the certainties, the doomsaying, or the Pollyanna-ish takes, and just see how this plays out. That's all.
You're listening to the AM Update, Week in Review. Follow on X and Instagram @RealAMUpdate.
I'll admit my first reaction when I saw President Trump's Truth Social post about the ceasefire and end of the war between Israel and Iran, I thought one of 2 things was happening. Either one, because I'll tell you, right around the time that President Trump released that post, there are multiple reports of multiple loud explosions being heard all around Tehran. In fact, it just came a few minutes before Trump made that post. So I thought one of 2 things was happening here. Number 1, Israel got Khamenei. Israel killed him. And that the ceasefire would be for about, 12 hours? It would allow Iran to process that they had lost their supreme leader and lost the war. Maybe something like that. My second reaction, but I think was more likely, is that I think Israel and the United States probably came to the conclusion, especially Israel, that there was no indication, no whispers of any mass uprising by the Iranian people in order to topple Khomeini. There was no indication that that was going to happen or was about to happen. So you might as well cut a peace deal while you can, while they're ripe for actually wanting to come to the table. Now, I don't want to make this sound too critical. That latter possibility, that there was no indication of a massive groundswell of people just ready to rear up and topple the Ayatollah, that was probably knowable before this got in there, before this war started, I should say. And while it wasn't officially Israel's objective to do regime change, I think based on their messaging, based on Bibi Netanyahu's messaging, based on all of their communications messaging, that was definitely something they were pushing for. So even though it was a wink and a nod that wasn't officially on their objective list, I think they really wanted that. And I think it became obvious to them that that wasn't going to happen, at least not this time. I think it was pretty well knowable before the war that the Iranian people were not able or capable of rising up. There's no organized resistance within Iran because organized resistance is illegal in Iran. So that's understandable. A couple more thoughts on this. I think the precedent that is being set here is that if it is true that the United States set back Iran's nuclear program by years, the precedent that's being set without regime change is that somebody is going to have to bomb Iran every 8 to 10 years just to destroy their nuclear system. I think that's going to be what has to happen without regime change. And that's not saying that I want regime change or that I think we need to do a ground war in Iran, because we don't. Lord knows we don't. But I think that's the precedent that's being set here. You allow this regime to survive. So yes, they're going to restart their nuclear program someday, but that clock just keeps getting reset over and over and over again. Finally, it's really hard in the fog of war to make definitive statements, and I hope that I'm humble enough, and I hope you recognize that I try not to make flamboyant statements all that often about things that are developing in real time. And yes, I record most of this episode that you hear, most of it, fairly late at night. So the way things are moving and changing with this story, this could be a wrong pronouncement by the time you listen to that, whenever it is, later on today. But from my vantage point, the way things unfolded over the past 72 hours, over the past 96 hours, on the world stage, Iran is diminished. Just a paper tiger now. It started with the decapitation effort that I think was very successful from Israel. It's clear Israeli intelligence is miles above and beyond, really, the rest of the world. Iran is just completely defanged. They can posture, they can position all that they want through their media. That's mostly for their own people. But nobody's afraid of them now. Nobody's afraid of them now. If it is true that what transpired and that this ceasefire is the end of this war, and we have some semblance of lasting peace in the Middle East, don't you, at this point, don't you have to believe that Trump has some sort of anointing by God one way or another? And I'm a guy who doesn't even believe in divine anointings the way that they're typically bandied about. Certainly some form of divine providence is playing out here. I don't think you can deny that. I mean, the reality TV host seemingly accomplished what could not be accomplished by decades of neocon leadership in the Republican Party and in this country at large. It's just, if this is actually lasting peace of some form or fashion, and it's Donald Trump who accomplished that, I mean, my goodness, just give him his flowers. Usually when I see headlines like what I saw yesterday about the CNN story claiming, based on sources, of course, that the strike on the Fordow nuclear facility was not at all effective, I don't even bother to read much of the story. I really don't. But for whatever reason, yesterday afternoon, I decided to actually read the story from CNN. And it was filled with the same, just like I said, anonymous sourcing, very dubious. But something stuck out to me about this story. They actually quoted, and it's unclear whether or not Caroline Leavitt and Pete Hegseth were actually talking to CNN or of their own volition they put out statements dealing with the subject at hand. But CNN made it sound like they actually provided that outlet with statements, talking to CNN. So I disregarded the whole thing, as I typically do with these stories coming from mainstream media. But something stuck in my craw for some reason. Why would the White House even give CNN the time of day on a story like this? That stuck in my craw. And I started to think, you know what? Trump was in a horrible mood yesterday morning. Never heard him drop the F-bomb before. Terrible mood. Very angry. I've rarely seen Trump that upset, like seriously upset. He was on the warpath yesterday morning. And I started to think, did he know this story was coming out? Are Caroline Leavitt and Pete Hegseth talking to CNN, trying to get out front of the story? I started to worry a little bit. I started to worry, maybe, just maybe, for the first time in the last 1,500 tries, maybe there is some truth to this story. And finally, about 2 hours after the story dropped, we saw the exact same carbon copy from WAPO and the New York Times. I realized my problem was not that I thought it was real. It's that I actually haven't consumed any mainstream media like this for a long time. Of course, it's bunk. At best, it's misconstrued. Could you misconstrue some information to make it sound as if the Iranians, could rebuild? We didn't wipe every atom of their nuclear program from the face of the planet. And so that means that they're months away from having it. Maybe you could misconstrue a report like that. But again, this was just a media hit job. Drive-by media, as old Rushbo used to say. I think it's also instructive. I think in this moment, as it seems like for now, some sort of truce, peace deal, ceasefire has been struck. If that holds, and it's in no small part due to the United States' involvement and the daring mission that we saw unfold over the weekend, of course the legacy media is going to try to program their audiences to make it sound as if President Trump, their most hated person, of course they're going to try to make it sound like he didn't do anything, had nothing to do with that, played no part in the peace. I think that's all that story was.
You're listening to the AM Update, Week in Review. Follow on X and Instagram at Real AM Update.
Poll of the week, I asked you, the 12-day war. What will we make of this? I gave you 3 options and the ability, as always, to comment with your own response. Options I gave you were these. 12-day war, was it a mistake? Will it be forgotten next week, or was it historic? In third place, 5.3% said the whole thing was a mistake, getting involved. Israel actually striking to begin with, the whole thing was a mistake. Third place, 5.3%. In second place, forgotten next week, 42.1%. And first place, 12-day war is historic, 46.8%. That's what I voted for as well. Auburn Tiger is next. Other remains to be seen. Yeah, if that was... I still think there are some dangling participles, but right now it seems like the ceasefire is holding. So for now, anyway, it appears that Iran's nuclear capabilities have been sent back years. For now, it seems that their ability to strike militarily has been set back a long ways. Their proxies have basically been hunted down and destroyed. That was their main arm of their military. And their military proper for Iran, that has been seriously degraded by Israel. But I do think that there is still some wait and see here. Hal Lacey said, forgot to add historic and forgotten next week button. Good point, because I think that's also true on some level. Brian says, historic, forgotten next week, mistaken, and that's just the way, that's just the things righty media will be saying next week. Yeah, I mean, righty media has been all over the place on this, as I just expressed at the end of the last segment. Mike says this isn't over. Next, the talking point will be, we didn't get all and need boots. All while here at home, absolutely nothing is being done about illegals or crimes in our government. The latter part is kind of true. There is a lot being done about illegals, although not enough and probably not fast enough for most of our desires. But the second part of what you said, crimes in our government, yeah, we need to be sending some messages, making some examples. John says, didn't end on day 12. Whatever. It's the 12-day war. Adam says, other, the last straw. End of Israel's free pass on American military action. I don't know what that means. The last straw, is this the last time that we help them? Is that what you're trying to say? I'm not sure. Sean says, wait to see how the dust settles. Steven says it's not really over yet. Iran needed a breather, but they'll start launching again and close the strait when they are ready. I don't know, man. Again, this is where I'm waiting to see. Are they really done? Do they really have a black eye or not? Doug says one of my child's public school friends asked if Jesse James was a quarterback in the NFL. We are uneducated. Really not sure what this has to do with the topic at hand. And Ricky says you need a selection that says, I don't know anymore. It's true. I mean, like I said, and that's okay. It's okay to be humble and admit when you don't know what you don't know. And I think a lot of people probably need to be taking a serving of humble pie this week after the way things have played out. But like I said, nobody really knows how this is going. That's what I said on Monday. Nobody really knows what'll happen next. And then Monday night, we got a ceasefire agreement, we think. And we think it's holding. So that's good. Regardless, what everybody wants is peace. And a lack of U.S. involvement, or at least anything more than necessary U.S. involvement in foreign entanglements. I think that's what pretty much everybody wants.
This has been the AM Update Week in Review. The AM Update will be back on Monday and every weekday at 4 a.m. Eastern Time.